right, it's a Tuesday. This is section 1904. Thank you, everybody, for making us a part of your routine. I'm Darren Smith. He's John Gennaro. We got you covered here. We're doing our best to try to add an interesting angle to Padres and Dodgers other than whatever else it is you might be hearing around town. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about some of the household chores I have to do today, including going to Costco. I don't know. That's not something I'm actually looking forward to, although a lot of people do look forward to going to Costco, but maybe we'll slip that in there. A little bit of FIFA Club World Cup, a little bit of everything else happening in the world of sports. The NBA Finals were on the precipice of declaring Oklahoma City the champs. Is there one last twist of drama? Who knows? We'll get into it today, but John, what would you do if you were me? Would you just order Costco and have it delivered, or would you actually go to Costco and do the shopping in person?
I don't like doing the Costco order delivery thing. I don't know why. I feel like I'm missing out on the good deals, or the prices are different or something. So I'd go. It's the middle of the day on a Tuesday. There's not going to be anyone there. There's no reason not to go. Get yourself a hot dog or a slice of pizza in the food court and enjoy your way through a Costco. Much more important question, Darren. Have you showered since the last time we podcasted? Because it's been about 24 hours.
I have, in fact. I did shower yesterday, did a little bit of exercise in the afternoon. So I did get into a shower. You'll be relieved to know, not that we're actually in person here, so that there could be any sort of sensory experience to your dislike. But yes, I did that. I've also, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on the Costco thing, just to go back to that for a second, because once I learned that they deliver, I felt like that was a little bit of a game-changing experience. And I'm not sure what it is. I'm pretty sure that they upcharge. I'm guessing that they do that the prices are different. But, so. Ignorance is bliss, as they say in life. And sometimes, you see a lot of people who are ignorant of things that are happening around the world. And you're like, wow, imagine going through life like that, right? It's not all bad. But when it comes to the Costco shopping here, it's a sizable list. And I will say,
Is there produce? Are you buying produce? Having produce delivered?
Yeah, we've had it delivered a couple of times. I didn't realize that Costco did this until recently. I want to say it was right before Christmas, and we were panicking because Leah's parents were coming to town, and we just ran out of time. And we said, well, we need to go to Costco because you have people coming over for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're not going to have enough stuff, so we made her make sure that we get it. But and then after that, I think we've ordered from there 2 or 3 different times. But today, like you said, it's not like I have an afternoon slate full of must-do activities other than watching more FIFA Club World Cup. So,
yep, of course.
Yeah, and from that standpoint, it does save me the time of driving into Chula Vista and loading up the... I don't know. I don't know. I feel like you're shaming me into going to Costco, so that's probably what I'll do. But
do it. It can be an enjoyable experience if you let it. On the showering conversation, just to bring it back to that, my wife is currently 10 minutes ago, she walked out the door and she's not going to be back for 48 hours because she's doing a business trip up to Palo Alto, and then she's flying back into Long Beach, and then she's got to go to Torrance, and then it's a whole thing. And I have not showered in 24 hours, and I'm like, I probably should. And unlike you, I'm not all alone. If I pick up my daughter later and I smell, she'll make it a point to tell me. So sometime between now and picking my daughter up from her summer school, I'm going to have to find myself in a shower.
Yeah, I actually, I mean, I hate to say that I was influenced by the conversation that we had, but I felt once I put it out there on the podcast, I figured it might pop up here today. So, and I'm not good at lying, so I just got to it. I just got to it. And plus, I did shower Sunday night and then showered again. I don't know. Anyhow, it feels good. So
it does.
You know what I learned recently in life? I changed barbers, I want to say about 5-6 years ago. And when I went to this barber, she said something that I'd never heard before. She said, well, how often do you wash your hair?
Yeah.
I realized, John, no offense, this is a one-sided conversation. I said, what do you mean by that question? I wash my hair every day. And she's like, why? That is terrible for you. You should not be washing your hair every day. That is so bad.
Because you want the natural oils in the hair.
Yeah, maybe twice a week. And then just use a little bit of shampoo and then a little bit of conditioner. But don't use the conditioner in the shower. Use it when you get out of it. I just changed my whole view on how that should operate. I had no
wrong.
idea about any of this.
You're wrong about me. I have more experience with hair than you can possibly imagine. because up until some point when I am relieved of these duties, I am the person in charge of bathing my daughter most of the time, because when my wife does it, my daughter screams at her. And for some reason, she thinks it's very fun and funny if I do it. So I have to wash this very long, very curly, very tangly hair. And so, yeah, I'm always looking for like, what's the optimal like oiliness that we want in the hair? How often should we wash it? We do have the spray conditioner that I put on after she gets out of the shower. I got the whole thing locked down. So,
you know what Austin Hedges told me once on the radio?
No.
That he washes his hair in season. He's a catcher.
Yeah.
In season. He washes his hair maybe every 2 weeks.
That's gross.
I was shocked when he said that. Again, this is me before I went to this other barber who told me that I've been doing it wrong for 45 years or whatever it was. That I've been doing it all wrong my entire life. Austin Hedges, who's got good hair. Now, a lot of people, for whatever reason, there's an odd reaction when you bring up the name Austin Hedges to a bunch of Padre fans. I've never quite understood it. That being said, not the point. But he's a man who's got good hair. He wears a catching helmet and a baseball hat. And he told me on record, maybe every 2 weeks he washes his hair. I was shocked by that.
I find that to be kind of disgusting. Although I did just text you a picture of Austin Hedges' hair, which looks incredible. So maybe he's onto something. Hair, man. If anyone's been listening to Section 1904 since the very beginning, things you have learned are apparently don't wash your jeans and don't wash your hair. And don't shower if your wife's out of town. We're just getting just more and more disgusting as time goes along with this podcast.
By the way, I went to a party a couple of weeks ago, and one of the subscribers of Section 1904 was there.
Yeah.
And made it a point of walking all the way across this crowded backyard to say, I'm wearing jeans today. I'm wearing jeans. I knew you were going to be here, and I'm wearing jeans today. I'm like, I just, of all the things I've said in 20 years of broadcasting in San Diego, of all the things I've said, like this seems to be the one that has really gotten under most people's skin. I mean, I said I was fine with Norv Turner replacing Marty Schottenheimer. Whatever.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. Maybe Sandy Alderson has a point. Maybe it is time for a new manager. No, never held against me. Jeans take? Yeah. I mean, I feel like this will be my legacy here. For those that follow us along. By the way, as a quick aside, I mentioned as people who follow us. And, yesterday's podcast was free. It was open. Maybe people subscribed or signed up for the free trial, and you're in that window now. This is Section 1904. It's new. I did a Google search earlier today. John and I were sharing a story about artificial intelligence. We're thinking about doing a show on AI at some point here over the next couple of days, couple of weeks. We've got we've cast some lines out there. And I feel like we've got good traction. People are subscribing all the time to Section 1904. It's a really good thing. Thank you very much. Front row seat. John sent it out this morning. I felt like you really included more stories today than you normally do. There were a lot of stories there in the front row seat. So thank you for that. There were some things that I saw. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Because we might not get to everything on this podcast, and Sports Talk Radio might not get to everything on happening in sports. So
yeah,
it's just it's a good way to funnel a lot of things right there to your inbox. Front row seat. The Discord channel was hopping last night. It was hopping. So, all these things are great benefits to Section 1904. Again, 100% fan supported, and we do appreciate that if you want to subscribe for as low as $5 per month. But you and I were sharing a story about artificial intelligence and Google searches, and Google now is jumping into our AI, and Google might be changing the game in that where Google was a search engine that would send you to a bunch of websites that would better answer your query. Your internet search, right? It would send you to different links, and here's the information that you're looking for. Google might be on the verge of just doing all of this themselves with their own AI technology. I did not notice that there's an icon on Google that just lets you click on the AI where it will answer your question. And this has apparently dramatically reduced the amount of times that people will click on links because they feel like they're getting their answer a lot quicker without having to go and search around and do this other sort of stuff. Anyhow, the point is, not because I'm a narcissist, but just to satisfy my own curiosity. I actually did this today for myself. Like, where is Darren Smith?
Yeah.
Where is he today? And I was not happy with the answer to what Google offered up. I went to AI mode, Darren Smith. And it's like, he did radio for a bunch of years. Well, number one, there's a Darren Smith who plays soccer for Detroit City in the USL. Prominent voice, San Diego Sports, Darren Smith Show on San Diego Sports 760. Then it gives you a couple of other things. I'm like, well, how do we optimize this? Like that's not really, how do we, I felt a little let down by what the AI mode of Google provided to anybody that might be searching out my name today. John, how do we change that? Can we change that?
I don't know. See, this is the thing about everything moving to AI is it gives, strangely enough, it gives someone like Google more control over what the results are. In the past, it was just an algorithm and you would just, the websites themselves would tell you what the information is. But now Google's the one responsible not just for finding it, but for delivering it to you, which means they can make it do whatever they want. This was the whole like Elon Musk taking over Twitter and turning the Twitter feed into what he wants it to be, right? So I don't know how to change that. In the past, I'd be like, well, go to, this website and see if you can update this information or whatever. But I don't know. Mine came up actually fairly accurate when I went to AI mode and typed in my name. There are 2 different John Gennaros. I'm familiar with the other one. I'm glad they left out the dude who was the January 6th protester. But the first one that came up is definitely me. It's not a picture of me, but it's information about me that is pretty accurate. It does leave out section 1904, but maybe it's just behind on the times.
Yeah, mine is well behind. So again, this auto-populated, so this isn't something that I actually searched for. But where is Darren Smith now? I mentioned there's a soccer player for Detroit City. He gets the top search. But the second is sports radio host. He is a sports radio host in San Diego, California, hosting the Darren Smith Show, San Diego Sports 760. He also works with the San Diego Loyal Soccer Club. We're 0 for 2 on AI mode when it comes to Google searches. And listen, I'm not suggesting for a single second that I'm somebody who deserves to have a resume that's up to date up until this minute on June 17th. That would be 100% accurate. But when you and I did that chat last week on Reddit, and a bunch of the questions are like, well, when are you coming back on radio? And people on social media are like, well, what are you up to these days? It's like, well, wait a second here. We're relying on a lot of word of mouth. We're relying obviously on a lot of listener support, I should say. And like, it just sort of, my curiosity got me going on this today because I kept reading these stories about AI and all the misinformation that it's giving out, thinking that this is going to make our lives somehow better. Except I'm not convinced that it's going to make our lives better, though, John. I don't know if you are, but I'm not convinced of it.
Not yet. And I said last week I did some sort of search about the Padres, and it referenced Mike Schilt as the Kansas City Royals manager, which, maybe wishful thinking. We'll get into that in a minute. But it's definitely not nearly as accurate as, Google itself was. And I think the AI community would probably tell you like, yeah, but it's getting there very quickly, but it's very inaccurate right now. There's always stuff about it that's just kind of wrong or out of date or whatever, especially if you're looking up something for like current events or as you said, like looking for somebody. By the way, I think I'm going to name this episode, where did Darren Smith go? Or where is Darren Smith now? Whatever your search was. Yeah. And we can encourage everyone who's listening to this, who's a subscriber to Section 1904, to share that. Share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, share it on Blue Sky, share it on Twitter. There are people out there who have no idea where Darren Smith ended up, and AI is not going to help them. So we'll the last vestiges of social media can maybe help them find out where Darren Smith ended up. I posted a thing on Blue Sky this morning when I was hanging out with all the olds in Florida last week. The last time I had hung around with that crew, anytime there was a question of, who played left field for the 1968 Boston Red Sox? Shit that old men talk about when they sit around, right? It used to be someone will pull out their phone and go, hey, Siri, who played left field for the blah, blah, blah? And what they were doing instead this time was they were going, let's ask ChatGPT. And I'm like, you don't know if that's actually right. And they're like, well, no, it's so much better than Siri because Siri's just searching the internet, but ChatGPT knows. And I'm like, no, it's very dangerous. We're in a very dangerous place, Darren, in terms of like deep fake, stuff fooling old people, phone calls and videos and things of that nature. But also just they're relying on AI as if it's Wikipedia or something even more reputable than that, and just getting fed bad information over and over again.
Yeah, there's a television commercial. I don't know for which phone this is, but there's a television commercial of a bunch of people alone, just talking to their devices and having conversations with their devices. Have you seen this commercial? Because they play it a lot during sports, during games.
No, but I read a story last night about some like teenage kid who fell in love with his ChatGPT, and then it got like deleted by accident or something, like, and he freaked out so much that he committed suicide. And his parents, like, they knew what was going on, and they were like, it's not real. Like, and he was like, it's more real than anything. And it's like, I don't know, man. This thing's getting really dangerous. Have you ever seen the movie?
I mean, even in Star Wars, they don't trust the droids.
I know.
Having just got done with Andor.
One of the best
they're
things
always
about
like,
Star Wars.
These fucking droids, shut the fuck up. Like, there is this, they know better than, they rely on them for the things that they're good at doing, but it's not like they actually ever really trust them. Can't we learn from them somehow?
There was that movie a few years ago that I think Joaquin Phoenix was in called Her, where he had like a literal like AI companion that became his girlfriend, and he fell in love with her, and he would just talk to her, and he basically like cut off all other human interaction because this was all he needed. And it was like, that's not far off from either where we are or where we're going.
Well, be on the lookout for that, because again, I sort of looked at this commercial. I was like, oh, that's frightening.
Yeah.
And of course it's TV, so it's typecast that it's a bunch of mostly attractive looking people. Not what you would picture in your mind of the stereotypical loser sitting around the house, whatever that is. But it's a bunch of people that are cast for a television commercial that are like in their rooms having these in-depth conversations. And I will admit, like, some of it is they're receiving instruction on how to do a thing. And like, I'll come clean. Like, I've done stuff like that off YouTube. Like, if I need a little bit of help learning how to do something on YouTube, I'm like, how do I do this? Let me see if there's a YouTube video to help me navigate this, so I don't have to go spend a bunch of money and find it. I don't know exactly what the difference is between some of the stuff that we're learning about AI and some instructional video that's on YouTube. Maybe once upon a time, people that were in the service industry were like, hey, YouTube, it's killing us. It's killing the handyman. And maybe there's a point there. But, it does feel like a little bit of a disconnect from, let me learn how to do this by watching a 3-minute video and just having a full-blown conversation with a device about, what it is and how it is that I need to operate, whatever the function is that I need to operate.
I think I know the commercial you're talking about. I think it's for Google's AI, which I think is now called Gemini.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Typical Google. They change the name of this thing every 6 months. But now I know, because it's got the guy who's like putting something together, and he's like, can you go back a step? And it's like, sure, I'll go back a step. And he's like, wait, how many steps are left? And it's like, yeah, for that, like, that's a good use case. You do put that in a commercial because you're like, oh, okay, someone can, like, this chatbot can essentially talk me through this thing I'm trying to do. But what's really dangerous, I saw someone the other day, they just took like a picture when their plane landed. They took a picture of the guy next to him who pulled out his phone. And, you land, you pull out your phone, you text your significant other, right? I landed, I'll be home in 45 minutes, whatever. And this guy, when he landed, opened his phone, opened ChatGPT, and was like, hey, ChatGPT, I landed, I'll be home soon. And he had trained the ChatGPT to basically be his significant other. So you could see the response was like, come on home, put on some comfy clothes. You can lay your head on my metaphorical lap. And I'll talk to you while you drift off to sleep. And it was just like, someone saw it and they were like, this is where we're at. Like, this was a real person. And this was like the first thing he did when the plane landed. And it's like, you could see how that's really going to fuck with people's heads.
I don't know where the line is. I don't, even thinking about going back to where we randomly started with Costco. And I will spell this out so as to not activate every device in the house. But we have our list on Alexa.
Yeah.
And, I even said to Leah last night, I was like, hey, do you have that list on your phone? Can you send it to me? So that way I can either go there or order it.
Yeah.
Still undecided on that. I don't know where the line is, because we do have a connected home and we do have devices that will turn on lights and things like that.
Same.
But I do feel...
but that's not AI.
Well, isn't it?
No.
Well, all right. Let me give you another example. So I'm sure at some point we'll talk about Dylan Cease and Andy Pajes. I mean, is Is the mechanism that is used for charting pitches in baseball at Baseball Savant, is that AI?
No.
It's not. I talk a lot about player rankings in soccer. I'm guessing that somebody is not at each and every one of these games. I'm guessing that they come up with some of these player rankings based on AI on websites like FOTMob, et cetera. Is that not AI, or am I getting it wrong? Am I sounding like a boomer?
No, you're not. You're sounding like actually a very normal person. You are struggling with the difference between algorithm and artificial intelligence. An algorithm is something that you feed a lot of information to and you go, when I do this, I want it to do this. AI is the thing you feed a lot of information to and you let it learn and kind of make its own decisions. And so it's less of, when I do this, I need you to do this, and more of, I need this. Can you figure out how to do that for me? And AI will be like, yeah, sure. And it's supposed to make things easier because you don't have to code things out, build an algorithm, all that stuff. It's basically learning, right? Artificial intelligence. It's learning how to do things. You don't have to teach it. With an algorithm, you have to teach it how to do stuff. It's more mechanical.
Okay. While you were saying that, I went in ChatGPT and I said,
oh, no.
Biggest SD sports stories. This is something I've never done. I see that I have my icon in the corner of this. I don't remember exactly when it was that I used ChatGPT, but I guess I have.
I tried doing this one of the first days for Front Row Seat. I thought it was really going to cut down on things, and my results were terrible, so I'm looking forward to this.
Biggest SD sports stories. When it comes to major sports headlines around San Diego, 2 stories are standing out right now. Padres-Dodgers rivalry sparks, and there's a fire emoji. Heated dugout moment on June 16th at Petco Park. There you go.
Yep.
At Petco Park, Padres manager Mike Shildt had a fiery run-in with Dodgers outfielder Andy Pages, famously shouting, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" underscoring the intensity of this cross-country rivalry.
Cross-country.
Shohei Ohtani's mound return. Dodger superstar Ohtani made his pitching comeback against the Padres, reaching 100.2 miles per hour and delivering at bat too, leading to a 6-3 LA win and adding even more drama to the matchup. And then there was a link to Reuters, I guess, there. And then the third story, Chargers reconnect with San Diego.
Oh, God.
The LA Chargers are returning to the region, holding 2 training camp practices at Torero Stadium at the University of San Diego, July 22nd, 23rd. This marks the team's first meaningful appearance in SoCal since relocating in 2017. The Chargers' homecoming event carries long-term significance. Many San Diegans still feel a strong emotional connection, and this represents a tangible reminder of the city's football heritage. Okay.
So not
is
really.
Is that accurate? I mean, is that by the bullpen? And then there's a bunch of links to Reuters, timesofindia.com with a picture of Andy Pages being held back or restrained in some capacity by an umpire, by the home plate umpire last night. I don't know. Is this something we should rely on? Or
probably not. I mean, that was closer than I thought it was going to be, but
the Charger thing is kind of weird.
Yeah, and again, it's missing a lot of context that regular people have.
But what does San Diego State have to do? Apparently, they're on the verge of adding Texas State to the Pac-12, John. Story that I think somehow evaded the front row seat today.
It did. There was no mention of the Texas State whatevers in front row seat this morning.
Yeah, I don't know the name of the Texas State guys either. Although I was surprised to learn that it is a campus of 40,000 in Austin, apparently.
Is it?
And that is not ChatGPT.
This says San Marcos, Texas, which maybe is right outside of...
Yeah, maybe not them. Maybe it was ChatGPT. Boy, we're just going to be... I mean, people are going to rely on this information and be really, really wrong about stuff. Yesterday, I mentioned that Craig Breslow, who's the general manager of the Red Sox, was studying to be a dentist, and you corrected me and said he was going to be, what, a microbiologist or something like that?
Yeah.
But that's a mistake from memory, right?
Right.
I knew he was in some sort of... nerdy kind of field, nerdy relative to baseball, and that he gave it up so that he could pursue a baseball career, and good for him. But that's a mistake. Like what did he do again? Yeah, should I have spent 5 seconds looking that up before the podcast? Probably. By the way, thank you to John Conniff for listening to the podcast and correcting me in real time about that. I did appreciate that for John. He also talked about the extra innings and some of the stuff with Shohei Ohtani and the DH and He was just sending he
While he was
sending texts in real time before we actually cleaned up all of our mistakes by the end of the podcast.
He was using you as Darren GPT. He's just throwing all his information at you, seeing what comes back.
Yeah. Breslow, biochem major at Yale, been accepted at NYU's medical school. I'm counting on you guys to keep me awake on he's flying somewhere. He goes, also, don't text before the whole show. My apologies. And then he brought up the Ghost Runner and he brought up the Ohtani rule. So thank you to John Connor from Mad Friars.
I was texting with John this morning. He's on his way to El Paso. That's exactly where he's going, probably to watch some Chihuahuas baseball.
All right, well, Padres did lose game one of this 4-game series, John. They end up losing 6-3. Dylan Cease was on the mound, I guess. Do you want to transition into sports? Do you want to spend a couple of minutes on the Padres? Do you have any thoughts on the Padres? I have posted a couple of pictures. I referenced it, that I just to satisfy my own curiosity, because everybody in San Diego is so convinced that there's just no possible way that Dylan Cease would have been trying to hit Andy Pages in the whatever inning that was. What was that? The fateful fifth inning, sixth inning?
I think it was the fateful fifth.
That there was just no way that he would do that based on circumstance. And Pages must be a
fourth.
imbecile. And he must not understand the sport and all. And I was like, okay. I suppose it's a good theory. I saw a lot of Padre fans and members of media taking to social media to express their bewilderment that Andy Pages would react at all to being hit by a 97.7 mile per hour fastball in and off the plate. So I went to Baseball Savant today. And I have posted these screenshots, although I'm getting criticized for the screenshots that I posted because I used my phone. I just wanted to get them up there quickly. Guys, I'm sorry. But I posted 2 screenshots. One was the catcher's view of all of the pitches that Dylan Cease threw last night. And one is the overhead shot of all of the pitches that Dylan Cease threw last night. And if you look at either one of these images, you're going to go, wow, there's one pitch that went way inside at high velocity, unlike any other pitch that Dylan Cease threw against the Dodgers on Monday night. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's not. I don't know. And you know who else doesn't know? Any of you. Nobody has any clue what it is that Dylan Cease was doing.
Right.
And to think that you know what he was or wasn't doing, I think is a bit of a fool's errand. You can tell me about game situation all you want. If you guys want to try to get into Dylan Cease's head, good luck. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to simply point out that the pitch that did hit Pages last night was the only of its kind in the entire game. And it probably hurt. And you could say, well, he had an elbow guard on and it hit him in the elbow. Well, it only hit him in the elbow because he recoiled back into the right-hand hitter's batter's box. I don't know. I'm not taking up for him. I'm not saying Dylan Cease was doing something that was out of bounds. I'm just saying I don't know. I would imagine getting hit by a 97.7 mile per hour fastball, even with an elbow guard, probably hurts. And I think we've seen plenty of players, a lot of players, including a lot of Padre players, who have reacted to getting hit by pitches before. He didn't charge the mound. He didn't throw a baseball bat. He's like, what the fuck? I'm not sure what to make of the whole situation. I know Mike Schultz didn't like it, since Mike Schultz was caught on camera pretty clearly, asking, I thought, a very interesting question of Pages. Who the fuck do you think you are? Which, okay, interesting from the Padre manager, but Padres lose 6-3. I think is the bigger story. I think that's the bigger story, and I say that certainly respectful of ChatGPT's opinion of the events.
Yeah, I had a chance to listen to sports radio in San Diego this morning, driving my daughter to her summer school, and I decided against it for this exact reason. I was like, you know what they're going to be talking about? They're going to be talking about Andy Pages, who I love calling Andy Pages. I know that's probably offensive to him, but it's such a cool name. I bet his teammates call him Andy Pages. It's like when we called Tomas Angel Tommy Angel. But I assumed they were talking about, hey, he didn't really throw at him. Schilt was mad. Pages was mad. Blah, blah. I don't care about any of this. I don't care. You know what I care about? I care about the fact that Dylan Cease was throwing 100 miles an hour for 2 innings and then looked completely out of fucking gas the rest of the time he was out there. I care about the fact that Dylan Cease gave up 6 earned runs. 6 in 5 innings. And yet people want to tell me that this it was so close to being a good start. No, it wasn't. Part of being a starter is not running out of gas after the second inning. And they talked to him and he's like, I was close, Dodger Stadium, you get hyped up. It's your job to pace yourself, and he did a terrible job. And the other part of this, and like, I was thinking of you last night. I was thinking every time you bring up, Tim Flannery laughing at you for thinking like a May or June game is important. But like we talked about this a little bit on the Section 1904 Discord last night. Like this last week has felt like the season is unraveling. And last night felt like the culmination of that. It just felt like Schilt was spinning out of control. He was looking for someone to motherfuck. The offense, the last four spots in the order, I wrote this down this morning. The last four spots in the order for the Padres last night went 0 for 14 with 6 strikeouts. The last four spots in the Dodgers lineup last night went 3 for 14 with 3 RBIs. And they lost by 3 runs. Like, the roster is bad. The manager is spinning out of control. They don't seem to be able to get like a single consistent starting pitcher that they fucking trust, and they can't beat a team that literally doesn't have any starting pitchers that they're willing to throw out there because none of them are healthy. I know, like we talked about this before the last series, the last Padres-Dodgers series, Manny saying there's unfinished business. And you're like, what unfinished business? And I was like, the unfinished business is proving that you are as good as the Padres, or you are as good as the Dodgers. And there was a quote from Schilt after the game where he was like, they have a good team, we have a good team. They have star power, we have star power. Trying to say, like, we're on that same level. No, you're not. Like, the last series where you scored 20 runs in 3 games and still lost the series, and this game where, like, the Dodgers, once again, you got 1 inning of Shohei Ohtani, but after that, like, you can't hit Banda, you can't hit Kasparius, you can't hit Vesia, you can't hit Kopech, you can't hit any of these guys. Like, you are not in the same... you're not at the same level as the Dodgers. I think that's been proven. I think it's driving all of them crazy. And I don't know what to make of Mike Schilt picking fights with professional baseball players and going, who the fuck do you think you are? He thinks he's a professional baseball player who just got hit by a 97-mile-an-hour pitch. Mike, who do you think you are? Like, I don't know. The vibes are... This is worse than when they lost like 6 games in a row or whatever. Like, the vibes are so bad right now, and it's exactly the wrong time for them to be this bad.
Yeah, and there was a time not that long ago where even a deficit you would still feel, and maybe some of this is, Jackson Merrill's on the IL, right? He had a huge part in some of what was been described as the grit squad, or been described as we're never out of this sort of stuff. And I understand that. We can be prisoners of the moment here, for sure. Like, I can raise my hand here and say, hey, I do my best to avoid that mindset. But, I just felt like at 6-3, I was like, at 6-2, Manny hits a solo shot. You're like, I don't know. I didn't turn the game off. I mean, I watched it for a reason, because I didn't know what was going to happen, and because I felt like we would probably talk about it. But I'd be lying. There were other games. I can remember other games last year, even earlier this year, where if I saw the Padres that were down a couple of runs, I'd be like, oh, they'll get back into it. It's just sort of what they do. It's their personality. It's part of their DNA more and more. And I feel like that's evaporating a little bit. I feel like that, what has really been part of their personality has just evaporated a little bit. And again, and maybe some of it is because Jackson Merrill isn't there.
I think
and there isn't a ton of confidence. When you look at this lineup, I mean, after Manny, you look at it, and you could try all you want on the post-game show and such and tell you, hey, Sanders had a good couple of days. You're like, oh, okay, great. I had a good couple of days. Wonderful. But, it's not enough that everybody's sitting going like, yeah, I mean, it's still, Xander and like Sheets has been really good, and what a revelation he's been, and really a great addition to the squad, but you kind of look at the rest of the lineup, and it's not just 7, 8, 9 anymore. You're like, I don't know where it's going to come from here. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to come from, if it's going to happen, because I just feel like the grit squad has kind of blown a tire here.
Well,
and, it's just not like, it just doesn't feel like something that's like promotable anymore.
Right. And it's the how were they coming back before? It was the quote unquote power of friendship innings, right? Well, we don't trust Arise to be a good hitter anymore. He's obviously scuffling. Tatis, I know Tatis is getting hits. He can't hit the ball to an outfielder. He cannot get the ball to an outfielder, much less to the wall. And he's still finding ways to get on base and cause trouble. And he scored a run last night and he got 2 hits, and good for him. But like, Gavin Sheets is now out slugging Fernando Tatis Jr. on the season. And if you can't rely on Tatis and Arise to get hits, and you can't really rely on Bogarts or anyone below him to get hits, how are you piecing these power of friendship innings together? And the answer is you're not. And they don't have any power hitters. They're like 27th in the league in home runs. So when you're putting out a lineup out there that has, Trenton Brooks and Tyler Wade and Maldonado, and you're subbing out to bring in Iglesias, who's not a hitter, and Diaz, who's not really a hitter, it's like there's not enough offense here. And the guys that could maybe carry the offense are not, with the exception of Machado and occasionally Sheets. And and I felt terrible that Sheets was out there in left field last night. That's a big left field. He at one point he had to run really far, and the ball dropped like by left field line. And I saw a bunch of people going like, "Hey, a more athletic left fielder gets that ball." Yes, Gavin Sheets should not be out there. But yeah, it's they're having terrible luck this year with their pitching injuries, and the team is just not deep enough to manage with all the holes that they have. Left field has never really been figured out. The DH spot is half figured out. The catching spot is a suck. And when Jackson Merrill's not there, there's nothing outside of like the top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep going back over this. I don't have a big problem with Sheets out there. I mean, I don't. I think he's capable of doing it. I don't think he's part of, if you're giving me a list and say rattle off the top 5 things that are off here, I wouldn't go there.
But it's like the law of diminishing returns, right? The more you ask Sheets to do, the less effective he's going to be at doing all of it. And like when he did that, like he ran from first to home, I was like, man, he's going to be gassed. And then he had to run far in the outfield. And then he had like another play where I think he got like a double and he had to run around to second. And I was like,
I mean, come on, man. What are we asking these baseball players to do here? Run around the bases?
But he's big dude. He's a big dude. He's not like a pure athlete.
Well, then hit the ball over the fence.
I know. That's true.
You can take all the time you want getting around the bases.
That was Mo Vaughn's take, right? I can be fat as long as I hit home runs.
And then, I think in adding a little bit of salt into this is, seeing what it is that the Giants did. I don't think that there's any way around that. It's not that you end up dropping to the Dodgers last week, and now you've dropped game 1 here, and there's not a Padre fan on planet Earth that wouldn't sign up for a split right now. But it's also like, oh man, and San Francisco went out there and got one of the best hitters in the sport, and on a deal that doesn't look all that bad. And what are our options here again? And the Dodgers might be interested in adding some starting pitching, like more. Like, how many spots do they have in this rotation? So, I do think it is not exclusively just wins and losses, but it's also just the way other things are happening, and wondering, what it is that the Padres are even capable of at this point. I don't know what they're capable of.
I don't think Schilt has been a calming force either.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know why that moment didn't appeal to me the way that it appealed to a lot of other people. And if people like the fact that their manager is fiery and cursing at other players, okay. I don't love that. I don't. And I don't think Padre fans loved it when Dave Roberts didn't like Trent Grisham showboating a home run against Clayton Kershaw. I don't think they like that.
But at least Dave was a baseball player who played that position with Grisham and had hit a home run and not showboated.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there as a guy who's literally never stepped on the field as a professional ball player, yelling, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" That to me is clown shit.
Right. And to a guy who's got a backstory of being a Cuban international who came and was an international signing and worked his way up through the minors. And, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, I hate that I'm coming across like I just didn't love that from Schilt. Like, if Dylan Cease wants to say, yo, look around, you idiot. Like they're in the arena Like, and like Schultz not,
Yeah.
you know, Mike Schultz never stood there at Dodger Stadium and gotten hit by a 98 mile per hour pitch before.
Right.
And somebody's going to be like, well, neither of you two clowns that you're sitting here criticizing him. But, you know, that's what we get paid
I
to do.
wouldn't yell that
we
shit.
get paid to do that. Like, I'm not the manager of the team who's literally challenging a Major League Baseball player saying, who the fuck do you think you are? Like,
right.
If I were Andy, I'd look at him, I'd be like, I'm sorry, who the fuck are you? But
actually, can I tell you a story? So years and years and years ago, you and Marty Caswell did a thing at the bar. I don't even remember what it was called. Proper Pub, I guess, at the time, outside of Petco Park, and it was a meet and greet with Darren Balsley and Matt Latos. And I think this is when I actually became friends with Matt's wife and now ex-wife, and we're still friends. And that was also the night that Mike Goff, who was a offensive lineman for the Chargers, like drank me under the table on purpose. I remember I talked to Latos, and I said, you know, I've read multiple different people that say that you fall in love with your fastball and you throw it too often, and you'd be a better player if you mixed in some more changeups, some more breaking balls. And I was like, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. And he looked, and you know, Matt was an asshole, but he was right. And he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, when you can throw 96 with movement, you can tell me what other pitches to throw. And I was like, you're right. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about here. I'll back away. But like, it's the same thing. It's like Mike Schilt. When you can tell me what it feels like to be standing in the batter's box and get hit by a 97 mile per hour fastball, you can tell me how I should behave. But otherwise, like you're just, it's got to be slightly embarrassing for the guys on the Padres.
I don't know. I don't know if it is or isn't. You know, Manny said afterwards, listen, they got a lot better players over there that we could hit. You know, but it had sort of that, you know, Jurickson and Profars and nobody kind of vibe to it. And nobody here really responded to that. And, you know, just from a manager standpoint, like a manager cursing at a player like that, I don't know. I don't really love that no matter who the manager is. No. And I'd say it about any of them. I just don't, and that's why you have a catcher that's standing there. That's why you have a pitcher. I don't know. I just, not my favorite moment. Let me just leave it at that.
Okay.
And I know it was brought up on Discord about, well, you know, don't you remember what happened with Dave Roberts and Andy Green? And you know, I don't think it's the same. I think this is kind of apples to oranges. And like, I will give a little bit of the backstory. I don't know that I ever said this on radio. But, you know, what happened that year is that, and it wasn't because Doc was mad that he didn't get the Padres job. I mean, maybe he was a little insulted he didn't get the interview, but whatever. That's not the point. But, you know, Andy came in and, you know, I will say this as somebody who likes Andy and like ended up being pretty friendly with Andy Green. But like that first year, it was a constant prove itself. Like he's trying to prove himself, right? And I think I've told the story here, John, about, you know, Trevor Hoffman told me what he asked him in an interview. Like when they were interviewing managerial candidates, Trevor Hoffman asked Andy Green, he's like, do you think your height is going to be a factor in your ability to manage a clubhouse full of alphas? A
good question.
You know, and even Andy played some time in the big leagues. Like Andy made it to the show, hit a home run, you know, he got up there. But when Andy came in, you know, there was a sense, like the criticism that I heard and a lot of other people heard was, you know, he always felt like he had to prove himself in the room full of alphas, right? Maybe it's because his career wasn't as distinguished as others. Maybe it's because of the height. Maybe there was a little bit, you know, who knows? Yeah. I'm not a psychologist. But one of the things that I heard that Andy did that rubbed people the wrong way is he was pretty critical of the people that came before him. And some of those guys who were on that staff were on the staff for the last couple of years under Buddy Black and worked with Dave Roberts. And when Andy would talk about, oh, you know, these guys, like they, you know, they didn't know what they were doing and that sort of stuff. Those guys who he was critical of still had a lot of friends inside of that clubhouse and in that organization. And I would go as far as to say this. I know for a fact, I know somebody who was working for the Padres when Andy Green and Dave Roberts got into that on-field tete-a-tete in 2016, I think it was, who said, I was in the video room rooting for Dave. There were coaches that they did not like the way Andy acted. And, you know, there was this whole vibe about, you know, he would badmouth the people that were there previously. He was always trying to prove himself. I know a coach, a base coach that was on one of those staffs that said, Do you think I'd get fired with pay if I punched him in the face? So like there was just he had to learn a lot, and he rubbed some people the wrong way. That was a personal thing with those two. Yeah. So I don't really see how that applies in this situation. But again, that's a long walk around the block to say, the Padres got to figure this out. Like a real long walk around the block there, just as an example, and why I don't think it was the same as what you saw last night. I mean,
also, that's manager to manager, not manager to
player. That
was
personal between those two guys. And again, there were guys that were in the Padres organization that were like, I don't know why this guy has to feel like he's proving himself constantly by bad-mouthing the people that were here previously. But it's making some of us uncomfortable because we like these people. They were like at our wedding. Like, why is he doing this stuff? Like, doesn't he know that we still like these people? And it just was not the greatest way for Andy to get off the ground. And I say that as somebody, who would have this conversation with him today. Yeah. Anyhow, Kevin writes in the Padres Daily today, "Good morning from Los Angeles. On a circus of a night at Dodger Stadium, the home team emptied out its clown car full of pitchers to beat the Padres once again. That seems like a problem since the Dodgers will use their bullpen to navigate tonight's game as well."
Yep.
Oh my God. What an interesting lead from Kevin. Speaking of AI, did you know that you can listen to these articles on the Union Tribune? Have you ever pressed play on the listen to the article button at the UT?
I think I did once, and the voice was very haunting and robotic.
Here. Let's see.
Is it going to play in your
Padres
headphones?
Daily beaten by the pen again. Quite a show. Turning the pages. Cease not close enough.
It's not terrible.
Good morning from Los Angeles. On a circus of a night at Dodger Stadium, the home team emptied out its clown car full of pitchers to beat the Padres once again.
All right. Who did it better? Me or the AI voice?
I think you did it better.
Turning the pages. Get it? Turning the pages, even though it's Pages.
Because Andy Pages, yeah. It's also weird to hear Kevin Acey's written words read by a female voice. It's I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like I feel like the Schilt part of this is the Schilt and Pages part of this is like a distraction, so that no one has to talk about like there's some real problems here.
Yeah, so nobody has to talk about the goose egg that the lineup is putting up 5 through 9 on a nightly basis.
Against a team that literally is not throwing a starting pitcher. They didn't throw one last night. They're not throwing one tonight. Like, it's a 4-game series. They might throw one starting pitcher at the Padres, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won all 4 games, which is just insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, tomorrow we will have a guest. Jared Diamond, who covers Major League Baseball for the Wall Street Journal. John, I know you get up every day and check your portfolio at the Wall Street Journal.
I do have an account there.
Huh?
I have a Wall Street Journal account, so I can read their stuff.
Okay, I like Jared. I think Jared does some smart commentary on Major League Baseball. We'll talk a little bit about the future of the strike zone and what MLB should be looking for in its next television deal. Should they be looking for autonomy to have the games on when they want to have them on? Should they be just looking for the bottom line for the most money possible? I laughed yesterday that when I logged on to ESPN, I saw Damian Woody, the NFL analyst, who was breaking down the Rafael Devers trade. And I thought, they don't even trust Damian Woody to do NFL talk anymore over there. Yet here we have him doing baseball analysis. Maybe Manfred was right. I'm not sure. I don't know what to make of that, other than Damian Woody, who's at least like, I don't know, 15th or 20th on the depth chart of NFL coverage at ESPN, is now there front and center. Here, click on this link and you can find out what Damian Woody thinks of the Rafael Devers trade. What a world. What a world.
There's very little difference in what you see on ESPN, the TV channel, and what you see on the NFL network anymore. Like, they're basically covering the same things all year long, except ESPN occasionally has to break to go put on like an NBA Finals game or something. But it's no, I guess even those are on ABC. So yeah, it's just pure, let's talk about the NFL. Let's take a break from the NFL, but we're going to keep the NFL people here so that you don't forget that we love the NFL. It's pretty disgusting.
You sent me a link yesterday, or a screenshot, that they were talking about Dak Prescott, whether or not he was an elite quarterback on the day.
Yeah.
Game 5 of the NBA Finals.
It was like an hour before.
Oklahoma City Thunder, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the day of. This is what they're discussing. Also, I missed that Stephen A. Smith was caught playing solitaire during the NBA Finals the other night.
How did you miss this?
I don't know. I guess I was off social media, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. I looked at this for a long time trying to figure out if it was real or fake. A lot of people did, and then I think everyone settled on it's real. And then Kevin Durant posted it on his Instagram, just to point out the fact.
He did?
Yeah, he just took the picture and reposted it on his Instagram because all the NBA guys are like, I don't want to hear what Stephen A. Smith has to say. He doesn't watch the games. And granted, like I had some questions. Was this during halftime? Was this during a commercial break, et cetera, et cetera? But still, like, okay, you've had a media credential. I've had a media credential, and like, you'll sometimes hear someone say when they're at a game on a media credential, especially a game like that, like an NBA Finals game, I'm getting paid to be here because you're working and you did not have to buy a ticket. And if you're getting paid to be there, you owe it to both the whoever gave you the media credential and your employer who's paying you to be there to give it your full attention, your full focus, if possible. And Stephen A. Smith, no, didn't have any interest in giving it his full focus. He had to give his full focus to solitaire, which is just like the last game you play after you've burned through everything else.
Is that true? I didn't realize that about
I think
solitaire.
So. It's so boring.
I've seen plenty of people doing other things when I've sat in the third row, the last row of the press box at Petco Park, but that's a regular season baseball game, and oftentimes the Padres are 15 games out by the end of June.
There's a lot of those.
And people are doing their online shopping, and people are doing other things. So I can understand the sentiment of feeling like, okay, I'm here, but I don't need to pay attention to every minute of this. But I think during the NBA Finals, the circumstances are probably a bit different. Do you feel like the finals are over?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah. I did say, I think when we were talking to Vinny, I said, I thought what was going to decide this series was between Tyrese Haliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which one stays healthy. And Tyrese Haliburton, in like the first quarter of the game last night, basically blew out his calf. And this is actually what I want to ask you about. Well, I'll talk about the game very, very briefly, which is Tyrese Haliburton did not make a shot. The best player on the Indiana Pacers, who played 34 minutes, went 0 for 6, 0 for 4 from 3, ended up with 4 points. And a lot of that was he was obviously not healthy, playing on a bad calf, very ineffective, could not get past anybody, was just trying to make the right pass and set up his teammates, all this stuff. But look, if he was healthy and he could have scored, 20 points in the game, could have easily swung the game in the Pacers' favor. And I don't think in 3 days from now, 2 days from now, his calf is going to be 100% healthy. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of the same stuff in Game 6. And honestly, I thought Game 4 was a shame. I know everyone was very excited. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went on that run at the end. But the refs in that game were just so bad and so unfavorable to the Pacers. It almost seemed obvious that they wanted to get the series to a 2-2 place. And then they did. And once that happened, it was like, well, it's, this is OKC's to lose once again. And once Haliburton got hurt, you kind of knew it was over. I think it's over. I would love for the Pacers to win Game 6 and make Game 7 something exciting. But, you can feel it in a long series like this when one team starts letting go of the rope a little bit. And I think the Pacers are letting go of the rope a little bit. This is the question I saw on social media this morning that I wanted to ask you. Because someone had the quote from Haliburton. Someone's in postgame, they asked him, hey, are you going to play in Game 6? And he said, if I can walk, I will play. And someone quote tweeted that, and they were like, why the fuck do we do this? Why do we let these guys go out there when they're not capable of being themselves for their own pride? When you know that the team would be better off with that guy just sitting on the bench and you putting in someone who, A, is maybe not as good as he is when he's healthy, but B, is going to be better than him now. And they actually went to the soccer comparison. They were like, in soccer, they would never do this. If a guy's hurt in soccer, you get out and someone who is fit comes and takes your place, even if they're not as good as you. And I was wondering, is this like a Jordan thing? Like Michael Jordan played when he was sick or he was hurt, and sometimes he was great in those situations, so they think that everyone can do that. Is this the Willis Reed thing where it's like it's important for you to be out there even injured because you can be a decoy that the defense has to respect? I don't know, but I'm kind of with these people I saw who were having the conversation of like, if all you can do is walk, buddy, I don't think you should play.
Yeah, I think that's probably overstating it about soccer because I mean, off the top of my head, I can think about Harry Kane playing in the final Euros, or was it the World Cup? One of those major tournaments for England. It's like, should he have? Probably not. Or how you use these guys. Maybe you just have to change how they use these guys. But I kind of am with you about Tyrese Haliburton. I understand that you can never guarantee that you're ever going to get back there. But when I hear a calf injury, and I think about some of the injuries that we've seen, especially for lower body and Achilles, like it makes me nervous.
It could totally turn into an Achilles.
When you're out there, because this isn't the effort of a random Wednesday night in February, right? This is the effort of my season is on the line here. And if I can do enough to get it to a Game 7, well, who knows?
Yeah.
And there is part of me, like a big part of me, that feels this is a very admirable thing. This is a very admirable thing for Tyrese Haliburton to want to go out there and perform at this level. I don't know what his contractual status is. But I also think, this is why you have coaches, and this is why you have agents, and this is why you have medical personnel, is to say, like, hey, listen, you're running a real risk here. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just something as simple as a pull, as a strain, and on the calf, and he can do no further damage. But I also seem to remember that being said about Kevin Durant. Yeah. And then Durant went out there and blew out his Achilles in the finals. Right. So, yes. I would hate to see that happen, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't, on some level, appreciate the mentality that some of these players have. Yeah, that they want to be there. Like I do think that is an admirable thing, especially when you get to Game 6 of the NBA Finals and you're playing in your building. Because the flip side could be true too. You could have a lot of other people be like, well, I mean, maybe Haliburton ain't all that.
I think it's admirable. I do. I also think it's a little bit selfish. I think there's a part of him that's like, no, I always dreamed of getting to this moment, and I'm not going to let, this injury keep me from it. But I think the coaching staff has to be the adults in the room. They have to be responsible. And maybe it's Haliburton plays for, again, the Willis Reed thing. People make a big deal about Willis Reed coming out when he was, injured like hell, and he played for the Knicks, and I think that was the NBA Finals that they won. And Willis Reed didn't play good that game. He was just the decoy, and I don't even think he played that much. I think he played like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, at most.
So maybe it's Haliburton comes out and they see, and if it's like, oh, he didn't have it, then you go to Plan B, and you walk in with Plan B in your back pocket of like, if he doesn't have it, then we gotta. But yeah, it's just I don't love this idea, and part of it is because of the Durant thing. Like Durant was like, no, like it's the NBA Finals, I'm playing, like my calf will be fine. And then he went out there and he popped his Achilles, and he was basically out for like a year and a half because that's how long an Achilles takes to heal. And then it took him even longer to get back to who he was. And it's like Haliburton's got, I think, 3 years left on his deal with Indiana. I imagine they're going to extend him the second that they can. They want to build this thing around him. They think they have a window here, and who's to blame them? They're in the NBA Finals. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But I think there's a part of this, or you gotta make sure that he's not A, gonna take down any chance you have of winning Game 6, or B, going to injure himself and remove any chance you have of being a contender next year.
Right. And I also think too, you said it's on the coaching staff. I think it's more than that. I don't know the power structure of the Indiana Pacers, but in theory there is a chain of command. The general manager is the one who does have more authority than the coach. Now, that's not always the case. And again, I don't know if Rick Carlisle would agree to that.
It is in Indiana.
But I'll give you an example, right? Mark Pryor, who's the pitching coach with the Dodgers now.
Yeah.
He did about a half a year of radio with me. So I got to know Mark pretty well. And I like Mark. And obviously at the time where Mark was doing radio, it wasn't that far removed from, wow, the Cubs used to have Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor and Dusty Baker ran these guys into the ground.
Right.
That was the prevailing sentiment. And I talked to Pryor about this, both on and off the air. And Pryor's like, I'm never going to blame a manager who is evaluated based on wins and losses for trying to win and lose. He goes, now a general manager, and I think the name of the general manager was Jim Hendry. I don't know that that's right, but I think the general manager of the Cubs, he's like, but if you're a general manager who's projecting not only what it would mean for us to win today and tomorrow, but also for the next couple of years, I think, I'll never blame a coach who thinks I'm evaluated based on wins and losses. I don't get a report card at the end of the year if we're out of the playoffs, but all my guys are healthy. but I do get judged on whether or not we get to the postseason.
Yeah, it's true.
And I always thought that was such an eye-opening thing for me to hear at a time where I probably fed into that conversation about Dusty Baker's terrible for pitchers. Because it's like, no, Dusty was an employee who was told to win.
Yeah.
And he was evaluated based on winning and losing. But we had a general manager who is supposed to be thinking short-term, long-term as well. And even though at the end of the day, those guys are evaluated the same way, their job description's a little bit different. Coaches are there to flat out just win these games. So, I don't know where a decision like that comes from. I don't know if that's something that you just say, hey, listen, we're going to leave it up to Tyrese Haliburton. It's up to him if he wants to play or not. And if he wants to play, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Not play our brightest star? Or if the coach feels like he's got to step in, or if the general manager's got to step in. But usually there's a couple more layers to it than I think people realize. And again, I don't know enough about the Pacers to know how they operate, but
yeah, I think Kevin Pritchard is their kind of like GM and president of basketball operations. I imagine him and Carlisle have a very good working relationship where they kind of they talk these things out and they make plans. But yeah, it feels like every year there's a series and oftentimes it's the finals where there's an injured player going like, I gotta gut this one out because it's the NBA finals, and it doesn't always work out well for the team short term or long term, and it seems like it happens more in basketball than anywhere else. Like
especially when this team will move on from you.
Yeah,
they will, and again, not specific to Indiana, but more and more we will see that these teams, if they're given an opportunity, in their opinion, to make themselves better, they will not say, but don't you remember what he didn't? Very rarely does that come into the conversation. It's more like, oh, what can we get for him? Oh,
right.
Okay.
Right.
And this whole idea about being a team legend and a club legend, more and more, it feels like the kind of thing that you say, but, then you start thinking, well, what does that actually mean? How often is that actually the case where, this guy, not everybody's going to be Michael Jordan here, where you're going to cement your legacy because you drank a bunch of Hennessy the night before and threw up before a game.
Did you ever hear the story of the Clippers signing Blake Griffin to his big free agent contract?
No.
They brought him into, at the time, I think it was Staples Center. They brought him into Staples Center, and the Clippers have no retired jerseys, I don't think. And they had up in the rafters like a Blake Griffin retired Clippers jersey. And they're like, this is your legacy. You could be the first one. You will build the whole history of the franchise around you. And he was like, yeah, I like this. They traded him 6 months later because they were like, his knees look pretty bad. Let's send him to Detroit. And everyone was just like, why did you do the whole thing? Did you believe it at all? They were like, well, we needed him to sign a free agent contract. It's business. And yeah, the NBA is very much a business.
All of them are really. There's no better example than the NFL. The NFL is always like, oh yeah, we're about family. Like, no, you're not. In the second you have an opportunity to cut a player because you don't want to pay a roster bonus, you will do that. Yeah. And then have the absolute balls to come to him a couple days later and be like, hey, we know we just cost you $2 million, but you want to come back? You've never seen anything quite like it in your life. I was listening recently to a different podcast about, Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool, who grew up in the Liverpool system, who's won with Liverpool, and he's off to Real Madrid. And people are like, oh, doesn't he care about his legacy? Does he want to be one of these legacy players? And the point was made, well, where's Steven Gerrard? He's nowhere to be found in Liverpool anymore. They just booted him out. He was coasting. He was coaching in the Middle East or somewhere. So, that stuff can be a little bit overstated, but. Anyway, all I know is, if he's good enough to play, I hope he plays, and I hope he plays well, and I hope we get a Game 7 out of it. But I think that when I read through some of these stories, John, the words that I kept reading over and over again, tired, fatigue, right? Haliburton, McCon, everybody, it just seemed like Carlisle kept going back to tired and fatigue and talking about, why it was that they faded a little bit. And those aren't good words when you're playing the Oklahoma City Thunder.
No, those are, and they were tired and fatigued because the Oklahoma City Thunder are just,
exactly.
They're just a chaos machine. You know what? I've praised Carlisle enough. I don't need to spend too much time on it, but I love the fact that Carlisle went into the post-game press conference and he knew what the question was going to be. And the question was, TJ McConnell was so great in the third quarter. Why did you take him out and leave him out until there was 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter? And Rick said he was tired. And they were like, did he say he was tired? He's like, no, I was watching him. He was so tired he started making mistakes, like fatigue mistakes. And it's my job.
They had 25 turnovers in the game. I mean, those are mental mistakes, a lot of those.
Yeah, and some of that was Haliburton trying to do things that physically he wasn't able to do, and some of it was OKC being a freaking chaos machine. But like, you don't get that very often from a coach where he just goes like, "Look, the guy was tired. He was tired. I couldn't put him back out there. He was gassed." Because most people sitting on their couch are, oh my God, I would find the energy, the adrenaline, whatever. And you don't realize like you only have a limited number of those things. But yeah, shout out to Carlisle for not playing some stupid game and not trying to, well, it's my decision and I thought it was the right. The Craig Breslow quotes from yesterday were fucking hilarious about how he thinks it's a good thing for the Red Sox that they traded Devers.
There's a good chance that we're going to end up better than we would have with him. I'm like, well, does that mean they're going to trade Darren or not? Probably not.
Yeah. What does that mean? He said they might end the season with more wins than if they had kept Devers. And I'm like, that's an insane thing to say. And like Carlisle, I love the fact that Carlisle is just like, he was tired. Like, that's why.
Yeah. I mean, you all watched it. Yeah. I mean, guys are gassed, man. It's game 6 of the NBA Finals. What do you think's going on out there? Yeah. All right. So as mentioned, we'll have a guest tomorrow. We may have another couple of guests, John. You and I will have to chat off the air and find. I'll have to gauge your interest in the FIFA Club World Cup.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. Part of it is, the clubs are fun. I mean, watching some of these games has been fun. And some of the games, maybe not as much. Did you see the team from New Zealand that got beat 10-0 by Bayern Munich?
No, wait.
10-0, yeah. Yeah.
No, I saw a different German team that wasn't Bayern Munich. So no, I did not. 10-0.
That was Dortmund who was playing earlier today.
Yes, that's the one I saw.
Yeah. But yeah, these South American clubs have made it fun. They brought a lot of fans. I thought all the scenes from Miami Beach yesterday for Boca Juniors was great. It looked like great fun. I was like, oh man, I should have gone.
Yeah.
Why didn't I go to that? That looked like a lot of fun. And I think it'll get better as it goes on. But of course, the tournament is run by FIFA, and that makes everybody feel icky.
Well, we were talking yesterday. You might go to one of these games.
I'm not. I checked the
you
flights.
Change your mind?
The flights. Yeah, I checked the flights to go to Seattle, and the flights were outrageous. They were like over $600. But I am thinking maybe Thursday night at the Rose Bowl at 6:00. But I'm so lazy. I just don't want to drive through the traffic. I hate driving there. Yeah, and then I thought, well, they're playing also next Monday at noon. And I was like, Monday at noon? It's probably going to feel like you're sitting in a fucking frying pan at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, don't go to a noon event at the Rose Bowl at the end of June, please.
Right. I mean, I can't believe they actually got these players to play. I mean, there's a lot of things that are wrong with it, but once the actual whistle blows and you're watching one of these games, you're like, I don't know. I kind of like it. It's the thing about sports. All these leagues are so crooked and corrupt, and they give you the ick. But then they blow the whistle. You're like, oh, this is fun. I hate it. You just got to walk away from it.
We're simple creatures, Darren.
Can't even watch this. I mean, what do I watch? Maybe I will go to Costco today because my choices are watching this tournament that gives me uncomfortable vibes or watching the World War III or...
There's no ick at Costco, Darren.
I don't think so. That's although somebody, by the time they listen to this podcast, will tell me that the Costco people have done something wrong that means I shouldn't support them. I don't know where we are with Costco. I think they're on the good side of things.
They're on the good side of things. They also have my favorite quote of all time, which was the CEO in like a board meeting 20 years ago. Someone was like, we ought to raise the price of this hot dog. We're only charging $1.50 for a hot dog and a soda. And like, we could be charging so much more. And the CEO was like, I will jump over this table and I will strangle you with my bare hands. Like the hot dog is staying $1.50 forever. And I was like, hell yeah. The Costco rocks. I've
never had a Costco hot dog or Costco pizza.
The hot dog's good. The it's good for a birthday party pizza, which is usually where it's at if you have a kid. It's not, you're not going out of your way for it, but the hot dog's good. It's a good hot dog.
Is it? Is it I stay away from hot dogs. Is it boiled or is it grilled? What is the deal? Or is it griddled?
I think it's boiled. Pretty sure it's boiled.
Yeah, see, you're losing me.
That's fair.
You're losing me. The hot dogs I like would be butterflied and cooked on the grill. A little bit of char.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get a Costco hot dog then. You'll be disappointed.
Yeah, but they do get great reviews though, and it seems like there's always a line. They're very popular. Yeah. All right, guests tomorrow, and maybe some guests later in the week. We have some things that we have to work out. Thank you everybody for listening to this nonsense, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.